Welcome, welcome to this video. This is for the penultimate round of the Norway 2013 Supertournament, or the Supreme Masters, how the name is correctly. Penultimate means 8 out of 9 rounds, and it's a bit late, this video. I didn't manage yesterday, so I'll do both rounds, both final rounds on one day, on the Saturday, but with 2 separate videos. So let's look at round 8. It was a very spectacular round, and I'll start with the less or the least interesting game, which clearly was Topalov against Aronian. We see that we had a Nimzo and the E3 line, the Rubinstein system. Yeah, and here Black has got a big choice. He can go for various lines. Aronian goes for the most popular line nowadays, the usually called Karpov variation with B6. Karpov has played this numerous times with lots of success. There are, as mentioned, alternatives, but this is the main move. Queen e2, bishop b7, it's all very normal developing moves. Rook d1, knight to d7. So everything's within normal parameters. So to say, white can also play further developing move here, bishop g5 or some other standard move. But what he's playing is d5, the very direct way to go about that. The idea is, if Black, oops, I accidentally moved the window. If Black now takes on d5, like this, just to show. If this is played, white is somewhat better because of the better development and coordination in the center. For example, right now the bishop is hanging. If you imagine something like this, just for argument's sake, this is already a bit tricky for Black. There are things that not really fit well together now. For example, this b6 move has weakened the c6 square, which is a bit of an annoyance, and it's simply quite difficult to play this position. For example, if you say queen c8, get out of the d-file, a move like bishop g5 intends rook c1, and this is rather tricky to defend for Black. He's taking on c3, which is the more logical move at first sight anyway. If white now would recapture, then Black simply grabs the pawn, and white has no particular compensation for this. The idea, however, was taking on e6 anyway, which is a tactical sequence now, of course. White plays this intermediate move, and what is Black supposed to play now? It's not so easy to even stay on the board. Took on f3. This is necessary. You cannot, for example, move the bishop back for this reason. If Black now takes on d7, there's knight e5, and we have a deadly pin. We have f7. It's too much. Black needs to do exactly that. Bishop f3, g takes on e6, and takes on c3. This is e6 is gone anyway, so white takes on c3 first. Queen c7, check, and queen c4. Yeah, we had some exchanges, and in fact all this has been played before on more than one occasion. This can also be seen by the fact that if you look at the clock times, Aronian was having even more time than he started with, and Topalov only spent a couple of minutes. So we reach this end game. If you do a count, white is a pawn up, but look at the pawns. Not this one. 5 pawns, but they're all weak, isolated or doubled. Black has got a healthy structure, 2 islands, but no particular weakness. The real question of this position is not the pawns, but can white prove that he's got the better minor piece? Sometimes the bishop is nicely used on the d4 square, and in fact Aronian won a position from this line. I think it was even against Karjakin, against some really top opposition, but now he's playing black and proving that with accurate play there is not much. He took on f3 and rook e1. White initiates some play on the queen side based on this pressure. However, black simply gave up the pawn and activated his knight. So let's look at this position, for example. It's absolutely impossible for white to make any real progress. Black's got these active ideas with the knight, and white doesn't really have a constructive plan to improve his position. I think it's really very drawish, and in the game, after some further moves,
check.
Yeah, they played a fair amount of moves, now drawn. It was drawn here. After some moves, we see that Aronian still didn't have much time spent. It's one of those lines where white is in a position to never lose, because you probably preserve this extra pawn, but it's almost impossible to make anything out of it, and so we had this quick draw. Maybe there is some way to improve in those kind of positions for white to make or to set more problems, but I don't want to spend very long time on this game, especially if you look at the other games, which have been simply a bit more interesting. Let's look at Nakamura against Radjabov. Yeah, this game really is one of those games where Nakamura certainly must win it, because with a further victory he has some chances still to catch Karjakin in the tournament, and Radjabov is in fairly terrible form, so one of those games you should try to win. And in fact Nakamura plays the open Sicilian, not bishop b5 or anything, so we get the so-called Kalashnikov variation, or improved Sveshnikov, it's sometimes called. At least Sveshnikov himself, the player, who is now saying that his own opening, the Sveshnikov, isn't so great actually, but I'm not quite sure he has a reason for that, and says that this is his improved Sveshnikov. Okay, a6 and b5. You see that this is very similar. Black now threatens to fork, so white advances and knight f6. In fact, in this position white could transpose to a regular Sveshnikov with bishop g5. This is a main line of the Sveshnikov with bishop e7 takes, and it's not a particularly bad choice, but it's the more positional way to combat this opening, and white has forfeited options of taking early on f6 to double the pawn. It's a good alternative though. However, in this position Nakamura played c4, staying within the grounds of this Kalashnikov variation. I have no idea how, by the way, why it is called Kalashnikov. There's really no no plausible explanation, I think. Okay, c4, attacking the b pawn, and black advances. Not much else to do.
Check.
Takes. I should briefly show that black cannot really take here. After the capture on b5, it gets tricky. Something like this. And similar, it's not fun. So b4, it's perfectly alright. Takes on f6 and back to c2. The knight on c2 controls the important d4 square. e7, g3, h5. Yeah, I guess this is a rather normal way to play, but to be honest, I don't really like black's play here with the h pawn so much. The reason is, if you look at this g4, castles, I just put some additional moves on the board. Something like this. If you consider the structure, the problem from black's perspective is with this h4 and g4 maneuver, white has got 2 pawns on e4 and g4. This always has one drawback. It weakens your f4 square. This can be a problem. The king is weakened, and you don't know, if you imagine a knight on f4, so it can get tricky. The problem is there is no knight to put there, and the other thing is, or at least it's too far away, or you could imagine that you, oh no, I'm very bad with the arrows today. You can also use a bishop on this diagonal, but this is not doing so much on g5, and also you also need to watch over the d6 pawn. So you weaken this this square for white, but the problem is, the real problem is, where are black's pawn breaks? With the pawns on e4 and g4, black will never ever play f5. It's simply can move the queen to some crazy spot. Yeah, let's say here, g6, f5, and even then you won't play f5. You're never ever going to play this. You're also not going to play d5, so you don't have any pawn breaks, and white has got pawn breaks. He can at the right moment play f4. This would be only after thorough preparation, and he can play exactly this break. Open up the a file. Black doesn't have a pawn break in this position, and this is a serious deficit normally. If you have a close, semi-close position, and you are not able to do any pawn breaks, you're worse. It's just like that, because the other side simply has the only way to dictate the play. This is with a3, undoubtedly white, who is now opening up the a file. You also see that Nakamura played rather quickly, and Radjabov already close to getting in time trouble. He's really in bad shape at the moment, and something like this. And the time trouble is an additional problem. Yeah, now white has installed this nice knight on f5, and this is the kind of piece you basically never can take, because if you would look at this bishop, the bishop at the moment is sort of a sleeping giant. It's not doing much, but it's it makes sure that a knight on f5 is never taken. So the bad bishop on g2 in some way improves the knight on f5, and black cannot take it. He must tolerate this knight. Okay, now a5, the a pawn was hanging, and white even plays bishop to b2, avoiding the exchange, and later trying to play f4 and open up the diagonal. c3, bishop d8. In fact, I think that Nakamura played an excellent game here. He very nicely increased his edge. Bishop b6 and rook a2. Rook a2 is a good flexible move. You can use it along the second rank. The main point, however, is of course to go to d2 and attack d6. Yeah, now already in trouble because of low time. Radjabov goes bishop c5. It seems that this was better to cover d6 even more, but oops. After rook d2, it's very tricky to cover the pawn. If you now try that, white can even increase the pressure with let's say queen a1. It's quite a funny move, intending to take. It's not quite clear what black should reply to that. There's really big pressure on black. He decided to play f6 and just give away the pawn. Take. Rook b8. And captured and back. So white has an enormous advantage, an extra pawn. And simply great knight. g6.
Check.
And this check. Nice tactical play. Black takes, there's rook d7. And white breaks through in the center. So need to move the king. And now very strong again. Rook to f6. The knight is still tactically covered because of rook d7. And what is black supposed to play now? It's not easy. He took on d2, bishop d2, so that the knight is covered. Queen to d7, and we see that Radjabov was down to 2 seconds. It's not clear that this is the exact time, as usual in this broadcast. Files on ICC, there are sometimes slight deviations. However, it is clear that now in this time scramble, even with much more time, Nakamura started to make mistakes himself. It's a complicated position, so no big. I'm not accusing him of being a bad player or anything. It's just terribly difficult to play this position. He could have won with knight to f5 now, and I'm pretty sure that he considered this move, but it's not at all easy to figure out why this is winning exactly. One line is this.
Check. Check.
And you can easily get to this point and now look for the kill. If you
check.
Calculate this, for example.
Check.
You need to look all the way up to here and see that you're basically winning everything, every pawn, and have a winning endgame at the end. That's not the only line to win, but it's very very deep and not so easy to calculate. There are also other replies. For example, if you look at this also looks critical. There's the spin. White cannot take because of the queen. So what is white's reply even? You can take here. Queen takes and queen f3. Just continuing the attack. And this is winning, but it's very difficult for a human player to see that. There are also these pieces hanging. This is the real problem. There are always pieces hanging. Yeah, so the computer assessment is all nice, but it's not easy at all to play. Nakamura played Queen e1, which looks very logical, attacking h4, but it has a flaw. King g7 is correct, and it's a draw now, in fact. And now rook f1 played. Bishop to g5 seems to be the mathematically best move, and this in fact leads to a draw. Look at this. Problem is that black already has got some substantial counterplay. Queen takes,
check,
rook b1 check, bishop f1 and queen to d4. And here's the counterplay. And white is not going to mate easily. Let's
check,
have a look.
check,
There is no mate. This bishop is controlling f8. And white can
check,
try various things here,
check,
but they all lead to a perpetual.
check,
And here white is even winning. Shouldn't try that. You need to go back and then accept the perpetual. Yeah, this was a way to draw the game. However, of course, Nakamura wanted to win, and it's impossible to play tactically perfect, especially if you have so little time. In Radjabov's case, you simply cannot calculate this in the time, and in Nakamura's case, if you're sitting there and the opponent is down to 1 minute, you also have serious problems to calculate correctly, and it's super complicated. So he dropped back to f1, rook b3, he saw all that, I guess, and now bishop g5. And it looks very strong. There is bishop f6 check as a threat. And the amazing thing is that here black even could have obtained a rather substantial advantage by the very cold-blooded move bishop takes c4. I assure you that no one is going to play that with 1 minute on the clock. But just
check,
from a purely analytical standpoint, this check, king f8, this is the big thing. You simply move into the f file, acknowledging that the rook is attacked here. So white doesn't even have any meaningful discover check. And this means that yeah, black is basically winning. Where do you move the rook? It's simply that white is busted. But he didn't play that. He didn't take on c4. It's a matter of time and calculation. Yeah, sometimes it's also a bit of luck in calculation. Maybe if you're lucky in 2 minutes, you spot this idea. Okay, it's not a big discover check, and then you go for it. But it's just a matter of luck. He played queen d3, which is still good enough to draw. Black is active enough to draw this, but the other one was pretty straightforward. Knight f7. This is yeah, again a mistake, but it's very hard to do a very just commentary on this, because you're bound to make mistakes in this complicated position. White could draw here with queen takes h4, and this is an attack that is enough for equality. This is the best reply, and now the only move that actually draws is bishop c1, and who is going to see that? Yeah, in fact the toughest try from black's point of view is the queen sack, and playing on this pin. And, this is the drawing line now. White has no other choice than to go back. You cannot go here, as this is nothing you want to see on the board. Knight f7 was played though, and it looks like a strong move. I mean, it's putting this en prise, and in fact Radjabov now played queen g3, but black could have taken it. It would have been the best move, but it's very tricky. Look at this, check. And here, this is certainly what Nakamura had in mind. Now threatening a queen to h8. But in fact, black can simply run away with the king, and it's nothing really threatening in this particular stage. And black has got serious counterplay, of course. White must be cautious with slow moves. He can try that, but Black can simply go back.
Check.
This is tricky because of this one. Don't know. Probably need to play something else here. Probably here. And I don't think it's enough for White. It's some compensation, but it shouldn't be enough. Yeah, but okay, this is all theoretical. Radjabov was on 48 seconds. He played Queen G3, which is not bad according. I mean, if you look at the circumstances and how complicated this is. Queen D2, and now move 38. Radjabov still is okay here with the move like, or not like, exactly this one. Queen D3. He can still hold this with quite okay position. Very complicated though. Let's have a look. Just to show this check here. And Queen G5 is one serious try. But here Black can even sacrifice the queen, and from a material point of view this is okay for White. But look at the a-pawn. Black is excellent in this position, but no way to judge this in 1 minute. Queen D3 was a really good move. White probably, this wasn't the best line. White probably needs to try to draw with the exchange here, and something like this. But this is also more like White trying to hold the draw than playing for a win, as there's still the a-pawn. However, in the game, with you see it's just seconds on the clock, he took on c4, and this is losing now. Check. Now you cannot take because of this is even better. Yeah, this is good enough. The queen, bishop here. There's even this one. Yeah, white is winning. Needed to move the king, and now knight e5, and this is disastrous now. If Black takes here.
Check. Checkmate.
This is one line that maybe Radjabov missed in this position. I'm sorry. Yeah, the only move that he managed to play, move 40, probably with no time on the clock at all, was to take on h3. And after bishop takes, resigned. The idea was to take here and take on f1, but it's not enough anyway if you look at this.
Check.
White is having this deadly attack in addition, winning this or here, and Black is completely uncoordinated and will lose the rest of his material. So I think, despite the mutual errors, a very interesting game. With little time, it's difficult, very difficult to play precisely in those complicated positions. Radjabov simply couldn't defend with this little time on the clock, while even for Nakamura the position was too complicated. Okay, let's switch to the next game, and this is which one? Now they're all interesting. Yeah, let's do Vichy Anand against John Ludwig Hammer. Anand playing d4. He's varying a bit from his usual e4, and of course this is also one of the games where Anand really needs to win badly. He is still in slight contention for first place, but he needs to win this to stay within reach of Karjakin. So, especially considering that he plays the tail ender of the tournament, better win. Okay, he took, and bishop d2. This little sideline Anand has played before, so it was something that Hammer could expect, if he expected d4 at all. But okay, Vishy of course had great preparation against the Grunfeld just from the World Championship match against Gelfand, so he has some ideas to use probably. And Hammer played the Grunfeld constantly, so d4 was not a big surprise in this game. Okay, we have this line with an exchange, and now c5, d5, took, and e6. So a quick sequence of exchanges here. We see that, of course, Black has allowed his that his Grunfeld bishop here is exchanged, so his king side is weakened, but he managed to attack the center. The center is not so dynamic anymore, and White now needs to commit what to do with the center. Anand decided to push the pawn, e5, preventing a further support of this, and h4. Very direct, and as mentioned, Anand needs to win the game, so play h4. It's a good way to get some unbalancing elements in the position, and it's also strategically justified. It's not something that you could classify as an incorrect hack attack or whatever. It's just the thing you do in this position if Black's king is weakened. Bishop e6 was played. Black could also think about playing something like h5, but it seriously weakens the king side even more, especially if you consider a maneuver like this, and probably this. It looks like a position you don't want to be in. He played bishop e6. This, I think, is also a good move that prevents this bishop c4 things. And now knight h3. This is a very provocative move by Anand, of course. It's just saying, okay, I'm going to play this, I'm going to play this. Do you want to take on h4, or do you want to leave this pawn on the board? So, okay, Hammer took it. I think it's the right decision. If you ignore this pawn and allow White to just have his way, it's not a good idea. Take the pawn and also use the queen here to get counterplay. This can be seen in various ideas. Just for example, okay, we can put it on the board. Anand now castled long. What I'm saying is that Black's queen here has some ideas to support counterplay. For example, if Black would take here, take, and queen f4. It's not great in this position exactly, but this is one way of reducing White's attacking potential after capturing on f4, on h4. Now exchanging queens. In this concrete position, it's not a great choice because White will get the pawn back and then maintain an excellent position with the pawn on d6. But this is one way for Black to defend, take and queen f4. There are various ways to play this maneuver. So, what's Black supposed to play here? As shown, the direct capture on h3 is not so great. What is the best move? I actually think he played the best one, or at least a good one. He took on e4. Black could also consider to just develop. I mean, it's often a good idea, but in this case, I'm not sure it's concrete enough. You can play a move like that. It's not bad or anything, but it leads to some attack for White. Say this, covering g5, and now something like this, with the idea also to push f4. This can be excellent for White. The queen is in a bit of a bad spot here. Black, if black takes here. This one. And loses. It's just one way for white to get a big initiative. Also after knight c6, again this g3 move is a problem. If you take now, it's bishop d3, and this is not cannot defend this anymore. f6, knight g5 and over. e6 is also hanging by the now I get it, by the knight. So knight e6, another threat, and
Checkmate.
this is a quick way to finish. Black is really hanging by a thread here. Need to be precise. He took on e4. I think this is really good. It's not to be condemned. It took a long time though. And bishop d3. Really, Anand is playing this game in ultra aggressive mode. I really like it. Instead, he also could have played the queen h6, which is also aggressive, but this allows the mentioned
Check.
relieving maneuver. Now white probably should try to get this back. Let's say this, and knight to d7, rook here, and we take stock. Black still has an extra pawn. White got one back here, but it's still one extra pawn. But white has got some compensation. The d pawn, the active pieces, all pieces are active. This can easily join the party. It's probably compensation. Nothing that black needs to fear much. He could have gone for that. I mean, white played queen h6 and initiated that, but it's not terrible for white. But this is just the more aggressive way to go. Queen a4, and now knight to g5. This was Anand's idea, attacking this bishop, attacking h7. So white has a substantial attack. What's the best defense? I think Hammer played excellently. He played queen takes a2, just grabbing it. Another possible defense was knight d7. You could actually allow that. Could also. This is also viable. It seems there's always this escape hatch. But taking was perfectly okay. Now queen e3. Of course, you don't want to exchange queens. It's not helpful. Yeah, now black
Check.
gave this check. This is also
Check.
okay. And bishop f5, setting up this attack on the bishop. Now you need to acknowledge white has sacrificed 3 pawns. It's really 3 pawns, and you really need to checkmate now, or win substantial material to justify all this. So what is white supposed to play now? It seems that knight takes h7 was probably the right one, but this is just leading to a draw. It's I know it's a tough statement to swallow, but it's a draw. Black can take. But now, how to defend this king side? There's queen h6 as the big threat, and in fact, this wins for white. Black cannot take on c2, as good as it looks with the queen. This is not defensible like this. There's really just queen h6 threatening knight f6 check, and black has no way to defend this. He can only give 1 or 2 spy checks, and then it's over. It's quite funny. Queen c2 not working, but bishop c2 is working because after queen h6,
Check. Check.
this is a perpetual check.
Check.
Yeah, if white steps up here,
Check.
there's e4, and you don't want to test that. Just
Check.
have a look.
check,
Let's see, is there a win? Yeah, black at least can try. White cannot play for a win, I think, after this. The thing is that f6 is now protected. Yeah, black should win here. So white must take the perpetual just with
check,
something like this. You can also try to run here.
check,
And can you go here? There's queen f5. I don't want to do that. But this is a draw. It's just a perpetual. Knight h7 was a perpetual. But at the end, I mean, it's not completely trivial to calculate. But Anand played rook c1. He needs to win this game. So perpetual is not good enough. But this is a serious risk now. And in fact, in this position, Hammer played rook to d8. I played it rather quickly, attacking the d-pawn. But with this move, he overlooked a tactical idea. And it's this one. Knight takes f7. Wish he played this rather quickly. And this, yeah, pretty much turns the tables completely. The knight is also covering this pawn, which is the the bad thing. After king takes, queen e5, black was losing. This is the game. We should have a look at what would happen if black defends better. Rook d8 loses straight away, but he had various ideas. The best one maybe is knight c6, or let's say the most aggressive one. You could also consider moves like h5 or so, but knight c6 is just trying to complete development, and after knight takes h7 to play then rook d8. So you basically wait until white captures and then play rook d8 to get the d6 without allowing knight f7. And this still looks very hairy, but it doesn't seem to lead to anything substantial for white. In fact, I think that black now is much better. There are tricky lines, lots of tricky lines. White can, for example, play the funky move d7, trying to lure a piece on d7. Let's say rook takes, which is okay. And now
check,
knight f6 check. Why is this tricky? Yeah, if you take, it's white winning again with the mate coming, or at least black can only defend against the immediate mate by giving all of its pieces. So this is a trick here. Yeah? So black can play this, and bishop takes. There's even just king takes, and it seems that black is defending successfully. He's got 3 extra pawns, so he can also give a little bit material back at some point, and even and it still be ahead. I think Anand's rook c1 was too aggressive, whatever, too ambitious. Hammer could have punished it really, I think, with knight c6 or maybe even some other move. But unfortunately for him, he blundered with rook d8 and allowed knight f7. But okay, if you want to win a game and you see that there are perpetuals, you need to take some risks. And I'm not sure if Vichy did this on purpose, or he just said, okay, I need to play on, I cannot play a draw here. And I can assure you he's really hungry for winning such a big tournament. It's been a while. Okay, he won this, I think, this Baden-Baden event, but it's not the same like winning Magnus' tournament in Norway. So he wants to win this game badly. Okay, queen e5. What's the big problem now? h7 hanging with the mate, basically, and also queen e7. And this is too much, e7 and h7. Yeah, black needs to immediately return the material.
check,
And play on in this position. However, there is a counter threat, rook d8, and this also means that white now is forced to play a funny move again, this one, Maybe Hammer even calculated all this, but overlooked rook d7. This is possible. If it were not for this move, this would be perfectly okay for black. Maybe he overlooked that. I'm not sure. The point is, if black now captures,
Check.
white
Check.
is mopping up like this, and this is probably indefensible mate. Can do some stuff like this to get a check in, but it's really just a check. If you look at this,
Check.
and now it's over. I can
Check.
give this check, but
Check.
black is out of check soon. So rook e8 played, cannot take on d7, and now queen f6. This is very strong play, concrete, threatening mate, and forcing this.
Check.
Yeah, now white is winning with this direct attack. The only way to immediately avoid the mate is to sack the rook here.
Check. Check.
Yeah, instead of knight d4, this was possible, but what do you play exactly now? Mate on h8. He needed to do this,
Check.
so that he actually has this check here. But after this, the king traveling, it's again a problem. What kind of check are you going to give? If you do that, it's over again. There's no more checks, or let's say one check, and after that it's over. Yeah, this is why he took on d4, but this at the end just leads to an endgame with white being in exchange up, and this is pretty trivial.
Check.
Yeah, white can just push the pawns supported by the rook, and it's no way to defend this. Also now b5 hanging, so yeah, just this
Check.
and this, and it's very, very easy. So a bit of a risky play by Vishy, but he wanted to win, and you simply sometimes get rewarded for taking risks. A draw was not acceptable, and he played exactly that, like that. Okay, next game is Svidler against Karjakin. Karjakin, the tournament leader. He lost this game against Magnus, but other than that, he's playing excellently. Let's see what Svidler is coming up with. Karjakin defending with the Berlin. He plays various defenses against e4, but he also plays the Berlin. And Svidler plays the main line nowadays with d3, bishop c5, c3. Yeah, it's one of the possible lines. This time not with an early capture on c6, but with this quiet type of development. It's quite similar to the Italian game, but with the white bishop on b5, of course. Knight e7. Yeah, this is a favorite maneuver of Karjakin's. He also plays this in the Gioco Piano, the Italian game. Quick knight to g6 if possible, and also is playing it here. d4, bishop b6. This is an important little tactical point. The thing is, if white takes here, black has this counter capture, and this is really a nice piece on e4. White probably needs to play a very unambitious move like knight d2 to get rid of it. So this d takes e5 is not really helping. Played rook e1, and now an interesting move by Karjakin, d5. Yeah, designed to immediately clarify things in the center, and in fact the whole center now gets altered. White takes on e5 and black takes on e4. If white would have taken with the pawn, there's knight e4, and this in fact, if you look at this, is quite active, so white probably needs to do something like this. Oops, like this. And this is not really looking like white is pushing for something. It looks fairly solid for black. I took on e5. and took on e4. This looks now slightly like an exchange French or some line of the Petrov, where the e-file is open, and play is now dependent on small nuances, mostly piece placement. This bishop on b6 is one important factor here, as a4, a5 would really trouble the bishop a bit. And we see that Svidler is playing this very nicely. He played this first, exchanging, and now f6. This is fine, and knight to d3. This is very important, not to go on f3, because f3, I mean, it's not leading to trouble or anything. But what is the knight doing here? It's only looking at those squares which are controlled by the f6 pawn. But f6 had a drawback. The drawback, of course, is, look at this, the e6 square. So he intends to maybe use the knight in the fight for e6. So this is why knight d3 is a good move. And now bishop d7. This is probably an inaccurate move. Black should play c6 first and push the knight back. This also secures a square on c7. After bishop d7 here, in fact, Svidler had an interesting opportunity which he didn't take. He played something else, and really a great concept, but the computer points out that the immediate knight f4 was a good move, which looks completely crazy at first. Why would you do that? Oops, give up this bishop. But the idea is the following, like this. And at the end of all this, you play a4, a5, and win the bishop. It's quite a strange line. So something like this is going to happen. And here white is up in exchange, but black is very, very solid. This pawn structure is a problem for white. I don't know. I mean, white is certainly better, but how much is not so clear to me. Black maybe has substantial chances to hold this together. Svidler didn't do that. He certainly saw those ideas, but he played it in a different fashion. He played the move a4, and this of course introduces this idea. c6, yeah, look at this, the bishop. He trapped his own bishop. And now a5, this was the idea. Very interesting. Yeah, Karjakin took it, so looks like the right decision. He also could have taken this one, but after this it's a problem. The e7 knight is hanging, so you cannot go here because of the rook, and you cannot do this as well, again because of the rook attacking the knight. Yeah, he did bishop takes a5. This is okay. And now knight c5. This was the idea, setting up this fork, and he just retreated. If you take, there's this one, and at the end the knight will show up on c5 and be a real pest. A great concept by Svidler. He returned to c8 now, Karjakin, and bishop d3. This is very nice. Now attacking, but where is the compensation at the moment? It's not easy to see. The compensation lies in the combined activity of white's forces. We see that rather quickly. He pulled back the bishop, and now knight e6. And here we see that those bishops are excellently placed. Got a great rook, and the queen is coming. Oh, it's looking nice. Knight g6, and in this position Svidler committed quite a remarkable mistake. He simply overlooked some defense. What you should do here, and this would lead to an excellent play, is play Queen G4. He immediately saw that also in the game. I read some report that he was so angry at himself that he didn't go for Queen G4. The idea of Queen G4 is to prepare this one, H4, H5, and after Rook E8, for example, you go Rook E1, Rook takes, Queen takes, King to H8, and now White has an excellent move. Maybe treat this as a small exercise. It is not easy. Yeah, it's not completely easy, and it's not a purely tactical thing. I'll be silent for a couple of seconds. Yeah, White has a strong move here, and this is H4. This is very strong. It threatens H5, H6, opening up the king position. And if Black captures, there is at least one good reply. This is one of those good replies. Black is basically busted here. You can try this as a defense. And Black won't survive this. It's just too much. You get all pieces in the attack now. Queen G4 would have led to an excellent attack. It's very unlikely, I think, that Karjakin would have defended that. There was there are other tries, of course. You can also first move the bishop, but have a look at this, returning the pawn. You don't really want to relieve pressure, but you need to take here on G6. No other way to progress. Here there's even another very strong move. Look at this position. This is strong. What's coming up now? It's not a spectacular move, but it's quite important anyway. And what is Black's idea here? Black's idea is to play bishop e5, isolating this rook. So if you play a move like h4, for example, there's bishop e5, and this is really ugly. You can, I mean, you can fight here with stuff like that. It's not even so clear, but of course this is not what you want to do. White here has a strong move, and this is the retreat, and those are very often difficult to find. Just retreat, get this idea out of the position. Bishop e5. Now I can just take. And what is Black supposed to do? Doesn't have a move really. He can play rook f8 or something, but not something substantial. And in the meantime, White is just pushing the h-pawn, and I think this is very close to a winning position even. Don't think Black can defend this. So Queen G4 was very strong. Svidler played Queen to H5, and this allowed Karjakin to defend with Rook E8, Rook E1 takes, and Knight F8. This is the big difference. He now needed to take with the Rook on E6 instead of the Queen after Queen G4, and Black's now winning a tempo on the Rook. Needed to go back. Bishop C7. So White is the pawn down, but he has substantial compensation, of course. All pieces are active, and it's only the a-pawn, so it's not a pawn that is relevant at the moment for controlling anything. I mean, what exactly is the a2 pawn doing? If you put it on the board, it's basically for the next couple of moves the same position, but of course in the long term it is a pawn. But it's not a substantially important pawn. If you put a pawn on a2 and remove the d4 pawn, for example, it's an entirely different position, because this is controlling squares. The a2 pawn isn't controlling anything. So let's continue for a bit. Svidler is constantly playing actively and probing, but he doesn't really have enough to win straight away. He's opening the position further. Black is pushing the a-pawn. And here Black committed a mistake. The whole position is very unclear to me. It's I'm not sure if there's any justification for White to say, okay, I'm still pressing, I'm pressing for an advantage or whatever, or the a-pawn is more important. What's pretty clear is that the next move is not the best one. He played queen to b6 and gave up the d5 pawn, and there must be some miscalculation in this, because after the capture it's really difficult now to defend. What Black could have done, he could have taken on c4, just being greedy, grab everything, and something like this, for example. Just one possible line. It's still hard to assess. White has got this active pieces. All pieces are active. And the king, I don't know. White has substantial compensation. I really cannot tell if it is enough. The computer is always just saying it's slightly better for Black, which means it is big compensation, but very hard to analyze. Yeah, Karjakin played queen b6 and White just took d5. And I don't know what he overlooked there. I'm not sure. This is fairly easy to assess. White still has all the positive aspects of his position, but he's got the pawn now in addition on c6. So he played bishop back to d6, attacking here. And this now nicely covered d5. c5. Yeah, maybe this was his defensive idea. I don't know. Those kind of positions are very difficult to defend, with White having all the active pieces. Here Svidler played the spectacular move rook e7. The kind of move, if you spot it, that it is, and see that it's possible, then you're going to play it simply because it's looking so cool. But he had a very pedestrian way to play, and not a bad one. He could also just take here with an excellent position. Just for example,
check.
Something like this should be excellent for White. Okay, king h8. And rook f7. Yeah, White has something. It's quite funny, this sequence, but he wants to play for win, of course, and plays queen to f7. Now the ideas after takes, there's d6. And this is even the best one. Yeah, in fact, Black could have played this, now that I look at it. Didn't he play it? Yeah, this was exactly the game. I'm sorry, got confused for a moment. This is exactly the game. I was thinking, oh, what is Black playing now? Yeah, he played exactly that. Yeah, now with the mate threat, need to cover it. And after this, we got to this funny position with a bishop pair against rook and 2 pawns. And of course, this is one of those positions where it is immensely important that queens are on the board. With queens off, Black is simply better with 2 pawns, but with queens on the board and the bishops, yeah, it's very much difficult to play. Rook c8. It's all quite logical and normal, I would say. And probably it's about equal. Yeah, h5. Svidler is still trying to do something. And here, in fact, I think it was in this position, or is it one move later? 2 moves later, actually. Queen d8, h6, bishop e6. And here rook c3. Yeah, rook c3 is a mistake, but difficult to play, of course. Rook c2 seems to be better. There's a tactical problem now. White is able to play queen to f7. If you would have played rook c2, just to show what's the difference, if you do this now, we have d3. Yeah, this was the idea. Now you can play here and actually cover the 8th rank. In the game after this, yeah, in fact a3 was an additional problem. With d3, black could have fought at least like this. This is a possible line. It's quite funny.
Check. Check.
And at the end, there's a queen and a queen end game, with the white having a big edge. But you can hang on with black and fight. In the game, we played a3, and this is really losing now because of bishop to d6. There are those kind of ideas now in addition.
Check.
Yeah, some neat tactic here. Oh, sorry. We had king h2 and now queen e1. One problem, of course, is if you look at this, cannot defend g7 now and wins. So queen to e1, and now king h3, getting out of the checks, and black cannot take now. If you take,
check.
yeah,
Check.
this one is going to
Check.
win. Played rook back, bishop f8.
Check. Check.
And here Karjakin resigned. Very nice game by Svidler, fighting the whole time to keep his chances alive. And also really think that this a4, a5 idea is super creative, very nicely played in getting some life into this otherwise rather uninteresting type of position with the open e-file. So I think a well-deserved victory here for Svidler. And another loss for Karjakin, which means that if Carlsen is scoring in his game against Wang Hao, he has even chances to overtake Karjakin. So let's see what happens in this game. Carlsen being white against Wang Hao. We have an English opening with e5. And here Carlsen plays a quite funny move order. He starts with d3. Normally everyone's playing g3, but d3 is quite interesting. d6, a3. He's not playing without g3, he's just postponing it a bit. a5. So black wants to make sure that there's never b4. g3 now. And knight e7. Yeah, this is quite interesting. I was really wondering why not g6. Is there a big drawback? This seems much more flexible to me, but he didn't do that. He played knight e7, bishop g2, and now g6. And this in fact allows bishop g5, which I would consider to be a successful thing, to exchange this bishop against the knight that controls d5. This is a positional achievement for white, and something that I would have tried to avoid as black. But okay, it happened anyway. And in addition, it's not quite clear that it really gave white so much. Here, in fact, you could argue that maybe knight e1 was the more interesting way to go about that, getting the knight to c2 and support b4. In fact, I think this is maybe preferable, but maybe he was worried about this. I don't know. I don't think so, really. In the game, what I'm getting at, look at this. Knight to d5. It's not so easy to get b4 in, and without the b4 move, you're not really having anything as white. You need to have some sort of pawn break. He played knight d5, queen move, and b4. Otherwise, you're never going to play that. But now, look at this. You're losing a pawn. This even for nothing. Bishop d5. Yeah, okay, you cannot go here because this forks two rooks, but could take here. And now we see that this is not a particularly great position for white. He really is struggling to get the pawn back. And what kind of idea, besides getting it back, do you actually have in the position? The knight is on d2, and they now try to activate with the knight e4. And after a couple of moves, he also got the pawn back, but it's simply not so great to give up your bishop and correct black's pawn structure. But you need to get it back. You cannot shuffle around all the time. I mean, at some point you also need to reckon with this or with f5 and so on. So he took it and got the pawn back. It's not a problem. White is still equal, but okay, he's trying everything to make it interesting with knight d6 and e4, opening up the diagonal. Get some simplifications, and rook d7, now putting the knight in a pin. Yeah, c5 was played. In fact, instead of c5, there was a funny way to play, pointed out by the computer, and this is really one of those super typical computer lines that no human ever is going to play. This is rook c6, just for entertainment value. No one is going to play this. And now queen to d5. First you think, wait, what is going on? If black takes with the bishop, it's easy. Yeah? c5 is a pin, winning. Now at rook d6, and then white can actually capture with the check. And now set up this pin. Yeah, this is a funny way to repeat moves. And what else is black supposed to do? Of course, you can go back, but then there's queen e4, and you have got the attack on on g6. And probably the best move, because you don't want him to take, is rook d6, and we have a draw. So a completely insane line that, of course, wasn't played. He played c5, and it's also simply Magnus' style to always try to keep the game going and present some problems, but sometimes, not often anymore, he is overdoing it and just playing on and risking a bit too much. In fact, here he's sort of drifting into problems. Bishop f8, and now rook b6, and this yeah, this okay now, but now played rook b3. It seems that rook d1 was a better move. After bishop takes, now you've got rook d1. This is important, using the pin. After rook here, black had this move, and this was a slight problem. How do you defend this now? There was again a drawing variation pointed out by the computer, but who is going to play queen b2? Queen takes, knight e8. This is actually quite strong. Knight f6 check, and this is again probably a draw. If black tries to block this diagonal, there's this strong move, attacking the f-pawn. Something like, oops, not f6 of course, f5, queen b7,
check,
queen e7, queen c6 is quite okay for white. It looks quite funny with this knight, but the computer just says it's equal. Yeah, it's not a line that Carlsen did find here. He played rook c3, and after the capture there was the strong move queen a5, and now it's a pin, and there's rook takes d6 threatening, and in fact there is no way to prevent that. White is going to lose a pawn now, which in itself is not a fatal thing, but of course it's slightly disappointing already, because if you see that Karjakin is in big trouble, and now you're defending this endgame a pawn down. In fact, rook takes d6 just won this pawn, but it was not, you couldn't avoid it anymore if you move the queen somewhere. I don't know where exactly. Let's say here, where there's still this. Queen d3 is silly. You can go here maybe, just for argument's sake. And then there's also this. This is what I wanted to show, with check and then grabbing the pawn. Okay, we had h4, rook d6, and we continued here with white being a pawn down. And okay, the question is it winning? It continued for a long while now in the rook endgame.
check, check, check,
Yeah, there wasn't so much happening really.
check,
It was all quite normal play.
check,
Up to this point, there wasn't really much happening, but here now it seems that white needs to be precise, and he simply wasn't. Very unusual for Magnus to make an endgame mistake. Played king d2 now, and this seems to lead to big trouble. h5 was better, to use the h-pawn as counterplay. For example, this one, and now important is you now can use the king to get the counterplay. It's quite hard to understand why he didn't do that. Maybe he feared this move, but there is rook g6, which is strong, and which immediately kills off any sort of ideas, because white will win both pawns here, like this. Yeah, black can theoretically do this, but it doesn't really lead to anything. h5 was a pretty simple draw. I'm not sure why he didn't do that. Played king d2 and rook g1, and now the g-pawn. What are you doing about that? Need to defend passively. This is never a good sign.
check,
Okay, let's continue.
check,
Yeah, it's all fairly logical. Black pushing his pawn, and here king f2 was somewhat tougher defense. Already white is in big trouble, but he should have tried that. He played, oops, oh, this was funky. Let's just restore the window. He played king g2, and this now loses by force, but only due to the final trick, which is yeah, an amazing piece of calculation if you see it all the way. d3, and this now is completely forced. What's happening?
check,
Oops, I keep hitting this other button. It's really annoying. So black is pushing the pawn,
check, check,
and at the end there's the f pawn. Now allowing this kind of things.
check, check,
Yeah, isn't this a draw?
check, check,
Maybe he calculated all this, and okay, it's a draw, but
check, check,
there's this move, and now black is winning. The point being that this is the only move, and after all this, you lose the queen. It's quite a funny final position here with g3, that white loses the queen now by force. So Wang Hao won as black against Magnus, really spoiling his tournament. With a win he would have even overtaken Karjakin and have great chances to win this thing. But Wang Hao is really an unpredictable player. I think you have a hard time pointing out any bad moves that he played in this game. Maybe the opening was slightly inaccurate. This really should lead to something for white, but maybe Magnus knight d2 and so on wasn't so great. I don't know. But other than that, Wang Hao played a great game. Simply always keeping the game going and even winning this end game at the end. Yeah, I hope you liked the video. It was a very interesting fighting round, and in fact the video for the final round will also be done today, just a couple of hours later. Hope you will enjoy this. You enjoyed this video, and I'll be back very soon with the final round.